I know a man who is a physics professor and a practicing scientist in the fullest sense of the word. He is also a disciple of Jesus Christ. He confessed to me that what science offers as proof is not always compatible with his religious beliefs. Perhaps you know someone who is facing a similar struggle, a chasm between fact and faith. First, let me help you understand what science is. In a roundabout way, I'll begin with baseball. Suppose you know nothing about baseball. So, you go to a game to see what you can figure out. You get no help from anyone sitting near you. The only thing you can do is watch the game and observe. What can you learn about the game? The pitcher throws the ball toward the batter. Sometimes the batter swings at it. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes the batter hits the ball, and when he does, he takes off running. And the opposing team tries to throw the ball to first base before the runner gets there. There are rules for balls and strikes, for catching a fly ball, for tagging a runner out, and so forth. You soon discover that the rules for baseball are quite complicated. But after watching many games, you think you have the rules figured out. From a scientific point of view, you have a theory of how baseball is played. You cannot prove your theory, but it explains everything you see happening in the game. As you continue to watch games, you grow more and more confident in your theory. Everything you observe can be explained by it. Then one day, a batter swings and misses, causing a third strike, and he runs to first base. In science, we call this an anomalous event, one that violates the theory we have developed. In your theory of baseball, the batter does not run to first base when he swings and misses the ball. Something is wrong with the theory. Your theory is flawed. Baseball, it turns out, has a dropped third strike rule. If the catcher fails to catch the pitch on the third strike, the batter can attempt to advance to first base and must be thrown out like any other base runner. What do you do with your theory of baseball? You don't need to throw out your entire theory because of this single anomalous event. In this case, you only need to make a small adjustment to your theory. Add the drop third strike rule and your theory once again agrees with your observations. Science is like this. We propose theories to explain what we observe in the world around us. We can never prove a scientific theory to be correct, but a single anomalous event can prove a theory to be incorrect. Like your theory of baseball, we can usually make a small adjustment to the theory and bring it back into agreement with our observations. You need to understand something about scientists. They don't believe or not believe something in the same sense as believing in God. All theories and laws of science are tentative, and always will be, therefore, subject to revision. What about religion? The circumstances are surprisingly similar. Each of us gathers facts based on our personal experiences with spirit, God, other dimensions, or the lack of these experiences. You gather facts. Do these experiences with spirit represent truth? To you, they do. Everyone gathers slightly different facts and comes to different conclusions, which become our religious beliefs. All valid beliefs, but not truths. They don't agree across the board. Even with these disadvantages, religion has managed to form schools of thought called doctrines or churches. In science, when we encounter an anomalous event, one that violates the theory we have developed, we reevaluate our data, seeking to bring our theory into alignment with the evidence presented by our investigation. We cannot prove our theory, only observe that our theory is in agreement with the data gathered or not. If the theory is shown to be flawed, let's say by some new scientific discovery, then we change the theory eventually. The religionists can't seem to bring themselves to do this. Unlike science, the different schools of religion don't have to prove their theories, their doctrines, in a universally accepted language or set of rules. Therefore, when presented with new information, they refuse to budge and feel justified in doing so. This is not a scientific approach. It is irrational to reject new data which would enlarge our understanding of spirituality. The scientists refuse to claim that they know something to be true, and the religionists should do the same. Yet, I understand the pain this kind of discussion causes in the hearts of believers. Patience is one solution, hoping that the anomalous event which is threatening our faith will sort itself out. Science gives us a good example of this. The planet Uranus was discovered in 1781. In 1821, another astronomer published detailed calculations of Uranus's orbit based on Newton's law of gravity. But when they carefully measured Uranus's actual orbit, they found that it disagreed with the calculations. This was an anomalous event. It could have thrown Newton's law of gravity into doubt, but there was a lot of confidence in Newton's law, since it was successful in describing the orbits of all the other planets. Scientists were reluctant to give up Newton's law so easily. It was suggested that perhaps there was another planet nearby disturbing Uranus's orbit. A few years later, in 1846, a scientist discovered Neptune, and now, taking Neptune into account as a disturbing force, Uranus's orbit was in full agreement with Newton's law of gravity. Scientists did not let something they didn't know, why Uranus's orbit didn't agree with their calculations, throw doubt on something they did know, the well-established Newton's law of gravity. This is an important point, which can be extended to include religious truth. When an anomalous event threatens to disprove one of your personal theories about spirit and the true nature of reality, don't be too quick to throw your theory out the window. Be patient and see if clarity will arrive in the future and set things right. You had good reasons for developing your theories. They still are good reasons, even when challenged by an anomalous event. Yet, how can we grow in our knowledge of spirit if we are unwilling to change our theories when faced with new data, which throws our old beliefs into doubt? What about the Big Bang? There is a lot of evidence for the Big Bang. Should we reject the evidence in favor of our religious beliefs, or should we reject science to hold true to our faith? The Earth is 4.5 billion years old. There is even more evidence for this than for the Big Bang. Did God create the Earth? There are some who claim, from the Scriptures, that this Earth is only a few thousand years old. Again, should I reject science in order to hold true to my faith? Where did the plants and animals come from? How was man created? Are we the product of evolution? Since the days of Darwin, mountains of evidence have come to light in support of evolution. In recent decades, genetic science has shown that we are related to other primates. As a rational person, I cannot simply reject the evidence for evolution. If we were not related to other primates, why would God make it look as if we were? What does this tell us about Adam and Eve? Perhaps some of you believe that Adam and Eve were our first parents, but also cannot reject the evidence for evolution. We are not limited to science for anomalous events, which run contrary to religious beliefs, but encounter them in historical data as well. Here's a good example. The books of Genesis and Exodus are thought to be the first two books of the Bible and a history of the beginnings of mankind. It is more likely that these books were written by Jewish scholars after the Babylonian captivity, making the source of the creation story and the Garden of Eden a product of Babylonian culture, specifically Zoroastrianism. How much faith should we invest in Babylonian theology? Or is it God we are having faith in? Evolution paints a different picture. A small face appears amidst the mass of other primates. It is shaped less than human and more than monkey. The eyes are luminous with emotion. It is there, all of it, in the eyes. From across the span of timelessness, the carrier of that first spark of intelligent consciousness, the original ancestor, looks out upon his world and observes its beauty with quiet pride and joy, with appreciation, but not total comprehension. He is the parent of a prodigal child. We are that child. Let me pause here. Perhaps this particular case is not a dilemma for you personally. Maybe you don't care about evolution. Maybe you don't even care about science or historical musings. Then what do you care about? The answer to that question, for most of us, is very well hidden. I have created a great deal of chaos thus far in my sermon, and for doing that, I apologize. Now, I will steer you into calmer waters. Science is the activity of trying to find the rules by which nature plays. Religion is the science of trying to understand the underlying nature of our reality. Is it physical only, or is the physical world, with all its rules, the projection of a deeper reality? The only conclusion I can see which restores some order and harmony is that we're talking about a personal journey. Science is discovering the laws of nature, which everyone participates in, and religion is the discovery of a personal journey, an inward journey. Thus, every journey is unique and not answerable to any other seeker's journey. Let me repeat that. Every journey is unique and not answerable to any other seeker's journey. Every time you experience a shift in consciousness, you feel compelled to compare the new experience with the old to see if your theory still holds. You are doing the comparing, and you grow spiritually by doing so. And this is what you care about, ultimately. This is all you care about. Then there is this assumption. Does reality even have rules? When we observed the dropped third strike event in baseball, we proceeded on the assumption that there is a rule for that. The players didn't just decide to do something different for once. Based on my personal observation, there is a level of reality Paul Tillich called the ground of our being. It is unmanageable, undefinable, because it contains every possibility, like a wild forest. In this chaos, there are no rules. Phantom that. I am in direct contact with this chaos, day and night. The only universal law there is that there is no universal law in this forest. But there is law. Nature follows laws. What is law? In religion, there is law, there is order. Where did it come from? Someone or something made a clearing in the forest. How did they do this? By ruthlessly rejecting everything except a very few possibilities, which are the basis of the laws of nature and religion. The problem arises when we claim to know what these laws are. Our only method for discovering truth is by experience, by experimenting, and by making assumptions based on the data collected. If we have not discovered the forest, then we will know nothing about it. For instance, what I am doing here is expanding the process of scientific discovery to include spirit and all that is beyond the known, entering the unknown to gather data from there as well, to include in our theories about reality. Are some of you struggling with certain doctrines or practices of your religion, past or present? I say, so what? That's okay. You're young, be patient, but be persistent. Keep studying them. Keep thinking about them. Keep praying about them. Everyone has questions. As your experiences with Spirit deepens, you will come to understand the oneness of all things, of all ideas and theories. Yes, study, but more importantly, seek union with God and with all other emissaries of truth throughout the universe. Accept the fact that you are lacking data concerning the laws of nature and of God, and even of that all-encompassing realm where there is no law, but only endless potential. Now, at the end of all things, my knowledge of God is not dependent on any external data, whether or not Adam and Eve existed or the age of the earth. Neither am I swayed by any doctrines espoused by the myriads of religious teachers or spiritual paths. All are one. At the end of all things, all are one. The job of a scientist is to discover what clouds and mountains are, and the natural laws which regulate their existence. That is where their job ends. A newborn baby is only an object of investigation as well, its humanity being equally beside the point. Yet, to a mystic, a baby is a thing only in the most superficial sense. In reality, a baby is a field of infinite potential. This is as close to a perfect description of God that I have ever heard. You are, at your core, endless potential. Therefore, you are God. And so you see, religion takes up the investigation where science leaves off, and the path of discovery religion offers is one of self-discovery, an inner journey. The closer you get to union with God, the less you will be troubled by what appears to be conflicts in the nature of reality. Why? Because at the very core of your being is a wild forest, begging to be explored. History and philosophy are full of curious seekers and suspicious human minds. There has always been, as there is today, a very thin layer of human minds who have the time and energy to sit back and think. They have moved past the immediate need for survival. How many are there? 1 in 1,000? 1 in 10,000? 1 in 100,000? Instead of planning and plotting how to exploit their fellow species, or to pull riches from the earth, these curious and suspicious human minds sought for patterns beyond the earth life system, in themselves and in others. They found enough to strike a responsive chord in their own being, and they passed along to us what they have found. I am one such individual. I have returned from the absolute void to continue living my human life. I certainly did not recover, nor will I ever. The change is permanent. This conviction is not based on belief, hope, or faith, not conveyed by intuition or emotion. It is a state of beingness firmly fixed in my consciousness. I have no idea how many other humans have had the same experience and returned to tell about it. If you are one of those, then now you know that you are not alone. If you are not, then my desire is that you too experience this shift in consciousness. But beware, for by doing so, you will face the biggest anomalous event ever.